Hello, this is Ariella Carmel, and I am at Calcalist and Bank Leumi's Tech and Invest Conference in Miami. I'm joined today by Noam Sagi, the co-founder and clinical director of Vidavii. Thank you for joining me, Noam.
Pleasure.
So can you start off by telling me a little bit about Vidavii?
So, of course, Vidavii is a new startup in the field of longevity. We have created very exciting technology that is an experience like to help people live better for longer.
Wow.
It is operative in London at the moment, and we are here trying to bring it to the US market.
Okay, so that answers what brings you to Miami. Can you tell me a little bit about what's interesting about Miami for the wellness and longevity sector?
So I think the obvious place to look at the longevity market is in Florida, Miami, North America as a whole. Because we're looking about really different aspects like awareness, free money, and ability for people to have the time to invest in themselves.
Right.
In different places we have different level of awareness and different economic situation, and I think right now Miami and Florida, definitely South Florida, is the right place for us to be.
Now, I also really want to ask you about your mother, Ada Sagi, who was a hostage in Gaza and was released last year during the ceasefire. You were extremely active in advocating for her release and for the hostages that remain there. Can you tell me a little bit about her story?
So like anyone else, I woke up on the 7th of October thinking that this is another normal day of shells, rockets, and attacks and sirens, and it transpired to be very different in the evening when we got the news that mom she was not found at home. She was not on the dead list or the injured list, so we knew that she was considered missing actually for the first 3 weeks. And our life turned upside down. We have to park the startup progress and everything and our family and completely concentrate on the fight of our life, just what you do and what we can do to ever see mom again. And luckily she was released after 53 days, but I tell you, we're still recovering from these 53 days. It was hard on so many levels on all of us. But we're the lucky ones, I'm still thinking about the other 101 families that didn't have the chance to experience what we experienced. So it's a bittersweet, it's really a heartbreaking situation, but we are so happy because all we prayed is to ever see mom even once again, and we got that.
And you were born and raised on Kibbutz Nir Oz, and you also know many other people who were killed or taken hostage, and there are, of course, many hostages from Nir Oz who remain in Gaza right now.
So as we know, Nir Oz was the epicenter of the tragedy of the 7th of October in terms of the response and the army not being able to protect them and how much they left them to fight for their own. And I think it was a moment as a community that is so united that everybody had to fight for themselves, which is so not in the DNA. They are really looking after each other.
Right.
And part of how we still doing, it's our nature. I born there and I grew up there, but still 29 people from the kibbutz are still being held hostage. They are like family, and we will do everything we can to still look after them as a community as a whole and not leave anyone behind.
Do you think that enough is being done right now to return the remaining 101 hostages in Gaza?
It's one of those situations that I think we can talk about it till the cows come home. The reality is that Hamas had 250 cards, and they didn't really use the cards. They're not really in a position to offer anything. And I think there is a lot of the things that come out and a lot of things that will never come out. Reality is that I think Israel quite desperately tried to create some leverage. It doesn't seem to be effective. And on the other hand, they're not really doing anything to say, okay, we want a little bit of stability and quiet and some kind of ceasefire like a lot of people in the streets of London or Europe or in America ask for. They're not asking that for themselves. And that's paradoxical. And I don't know, of course, it's easy to say that the government can do more and I wish they could do and they will do more. And it's not a question if we are in agreement or disagreement politically. I think the question is what can be done and it's our responsibility to do everything for every brother, sister, they are blood of our blood and they are our family to bring them back home. What can be done more? It's easy to see it and criticize. But the reality is that whatever happened up till now was effective when the first deal happened. We saw 150 people coming out. And since then we didn't so much progress. There is few bodies that have been really recovered and there is 5 hostages that being 6 that being released. It's desperate. Yeah. I don't believe that there is anyone, even in the Israeli government, that don't think every day about what they can do to bring them back. We're dealing with a very, very difficult enemy because I don't think they value life. Right. So in a weird way, what else need to happen before they would start to say, okay, we have cards and we want to use them? Hard to tell. Definitely.
Now, in the middle of this incredibly traumatic year and a half that you've been going through, you've also been managing your company, which is a wellness and quality of life and longevity startup. How has that impacted this whole experience impacted your view on wellness and quality of life? I must imagine that it's had an impact.
Yeah, so we are in the business of well-being for many years, and we are working on a technology for a long time, and then we were just about ready for to launch, and then the 7th of October happened. We had to wait and put a lot of our plans to one side, and I think that the reality of that is that we're looking at quality of life, and the benchmark, it doesn't matter where you're at. If it's great life that you have and you want to make it better, fantastic, but when it's more existential and mental health come into this and how much we're just looking at the nervous system from a very existential point of view, it's an amazing system for that, and I really use it mainly for myself just to rebalance and recalibrate.
You've utilized it for your own mental health.
Correct. Because I'm not in a position to be like my best. We've faced major trauma. And from that point, the technology and the longevity circuit that we created is an amazing, because it meets you what you are.
Right.
And if you are in a more existential place and just need to balance your nervous system and not necessarily to balance your hormones and to reduce inflammation and to feel like you can really feel so invigorated and full of life, it's a good place to start.
Right.
So the mental health elements are as important as the physical elements, and they're equally powerful. And so that's the starting point for me.
And I can definitely see the application of the solution, particularly in Israel, everywhere really, but especially in the last period with the rise in PTSD and families like yours and others who have been impacted in so many ways.
We know that people in Israel live on high stress level for really ongoing period of time. If we were animal in nature, you run away from your predators and then you know that you are alive and then you're saved and then you go back to the pond, belly up, soak vitamin D, recalibrate. We don't have that. It's ongoing stress. Right. Whether it's the siren, whether it's someone that is still thinking of in Gaza, whether it's the war, whether it's the
there's no
friction.
post-traumatic stress. It's continuing.
Exactly. I say, we experience PTSD without the P because it's not post. We still have 101 hostages. It's still an open wound. 100%. There is no closure. We fight for something so we can have the starting point. even if it's about bringing the dead for burial and to start mourn properly and bring the alive for recovery and start somewhere. So the starting point is very important.
How can you possibly address trauma and all of the mental health issues that will have emerged from this when there are still people remaining in captivity?
Correct. I really think that the technology will be amazing offering for the Israeli society on so many levels. And I would have loved to bring it into Israel. My wife, passionate Israeli that wanted it to be available for soldiers and for people that experience all different level of trauma, because it is just fantastic way of doing it. It's half an hour of experience where we biohack your system. Your brain can relax for a second.
Right.
Your nervous system can recalibrate. Your hormonal balancing is happening and happy hormones being released. So it's super effective, and it would be nice to find the right partner that would help us to bring it even on that more charitable level.
Absolutely.
To the people in Israel, because this is in our heart.
And there's a real need for it.
And there is a real need. There is a real need.
Well, Noam, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me, and sending all the best to you and your family and your mother, and may all of the hostages come home soon.
Well, I'm joining your prayer.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.